Hello, 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 everyone. This is Saturday Night Live, Doug Wilkerson, and we want to start off our meeting tonight with a little breathing exercise. I'd like for everybody to take a slow, deep breath and let it out. And another slow, deep breath and let it out. One more slow, deep breath and let it out. Deep, and then all the way out. And then say, I'm sorry. Forgive me.
Forgive me.
Sorry, forgive me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Forgive me.
Forgive me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to add one more into this. Take a deep breath. Let it out. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Forgive me.
For-
I love you.
I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more deep breath. Now that will help you.
Amen.
So we're going to go to Paul. Paul's going to be our MC tonight. So take it away, Brother Paul.
Good evening. Is everybody ready for recovery?
Woo! Woo!
It's Saturday Night Live, and I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to be here because I could have been a lot of other places, and here lately they have been really bad with some of the medical things I've had going on. So I'm really glad to be with y'all tonight, and we want you here. We're not going to judge you a bit. That is one of the things that I love about Saturday Night Live. When you show up, you are friend, family, part of us, and we never have any judgment and accusations. All we are here is for to help. We want what's best for you, and recovery is best for all of us. So, had some thoughts. My thoughts today was, as you're fighting through addiction, keep pushing. There's an end. And it may not seem like the end is ever going to come, but there is an end. And you never know how close you are to your final victory and your win. So keep pushing. And with each up and down, we kind of realize how little control we have over things around us. But we do have control of the choices we make and the way we react to the things around us and what happens with them. And one of the most important choices is when it gets tough, just don't give up. Just keep on pushing. Because there is an end, and you have power to choose how your story is going to end. And that's kind of what I wanted to start out with tonight. Just think about how it may not feel like you're in control, but you get to decide most of what's going to happen to you. You definitely get to decide how you're going to react to what's happening to you.
Yes.
And you can take control of it and you can win. So now we're going to move on, and Kate is going to read the 12 steps for us. Let's welcome Kate. Yay, Kate.
All right. I'm having to read the 12 steps off of Google because I'm not currently home, so it may be a little different. But step 1 is we admitted we were powerless over our dependencies, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. Step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7, we humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all.
No,
Step-
there's no Carlos here.
Step 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. And step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. All right, that's the 12 steps. And I'm being called to go eat dinner. So you guys have a good night. I love you guys. Bye.
Thanks, Kate.
No problem. Good luck.
Thank you. So now we're going to have Debbie come, and she's going to do the step and reflection kind of in a combination tonight. So Debbie, come on down. Everybody welcome Debbie. Yay, Debbie.
You're muted, Debbie.
Debbie, talk to us.
Thank you, Paul.
There you go.
Yeah, I had some noise going on here, some kids going down the street, but we're doing step 8 since this is the 8th month, and the one that was picked was forgiven or to forgive. The Bible reading is Matthew 18, 23 through 35. And the step is, we have made a list of our persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Listing all the people that we have named will probably trigger a natural defensiveness. With each name, we write down another mental list may begin to form, a list of wrongs that have been done to us. How can we deal with the resentment we hold towards others so we can move forward making amends? And the story goes that Jesus told us the story of the king, decided to bring his accounts up to date with the servants who had borrowed money from him. In the process, one of his debtors was brought to him, owed him millions of dollars. And you'll find that in Matthew 18, 23 through 24. The men begged for forgiveness because he couldn't pay the king. We, filled with pity for him, the king filled with pity for him, and he released him and forgave his debt. But when the man left the king, he went to a fellow servant who owed him a few $1,000. He grabbed the servant by the throat and demanded instant payment. This was reported to the king. Then the king called in the man he had forgiven and said, "You evil servant, I forgave you that tremendous debt because you pleaded with me. Shouldn't you have mercy on the fellow servant Then the angry king sent the man to prison to be tortured until he had paid his entire debt. That's what that's what my heavenly Father will do to you if you refuse to forgive your brother and sister. And you'll find that in Matthew 18:32 through 35. When we look at all that God has forgiven us, it makes sense to choose to forgive others. This also frees us from torture and fastens us resentment. We can't change what others have done to us, but we can write off the debt and become willing to make amends. And
Good, Debbie.
another thing, actually, I was reading earlier, my lady, Louise Hayes, actually, one of her statements was that, unless we learn to forgive others, we can't really love ourselves even, because it takes a lot of forgiveness. We got to give up the forgiveness and resentment to be able to love ourselves, to have true love for ourselves, and to care about us. But that was out of the Recovery Bible, which we really suggest the Recovery Bible because it has a little side parts that has about the steps and how it refers to in the Bible. And then we also have the Life Recovery Handbook here. And it just goes with the Bible, and it asks questions in it. So in that part, it has several questions here. The third question down, it has 3. And it says, what blocks me from forgiving others for the wrongs done to me? And the A question was fear of what others would think about me, or pride. And pride just runs in there to such big, just a big way of doing it. Pride comes in so much to so many things because pride, I like to think of stubbornness, or just being, I'm just not going to, do it because I'm the one who's in the right or whatever, So pride will come in in a lot of different ways. And then the big question is fear of letting others see my hurts. And sometimes that's just really hard to admit to others, is that you hurt me, especially when you've been hurt so bad. I know for many years, I wouldn't let anybody see me cry or be upset, which just stuck a lot of anger down inside me. And when it did let out, boy, the whole world had to watch out for blocks around me because it would come out so strong and forceful. So it's not good to hold on to that. Find somebody. It's really a lot easier to tell at the time, hey, you hurt me, or you hurt my feelings, or whatever. But just to explain to them. And the C question here is fear of confliction. And sometimes that's just, I was with somebody I don't mind talking to, and I'm a typical woman, most of the time, but a lot of men have that fear. They just, they don't want to bother. They don't want to start a fight. They don't want to have an argument, and they're scared of getting into an argument. But if you can find a way to just sit down and reasonably talk about things right at the first, I think it's a lot better. So, but those are some of the questions that's in the recovery handbook there, and I'll give it back to Paul.
Thank you, Debbie. You did good, and you reminded us that we not only need to be forgiven, but we also need to be forgiving. And that's part of the lesson in this step, is learning how to do both. Before we move on to Doug time, I had some thoughts about the breathing exercise. The 4 things that he said, and I hope I'm not stepping all over what his plans are for tonight, but when you tell somebody you're sorry, that means that if I say I'm sorry, I'm putting my baggage on the ground so that I can quit carrying it around. And when I ask them to forgive me, it gives them the chance to get rid of their baggage, and they can lay it down. And then the I love you, once you get the garbage out from between you, you can rebuild a relationship. And that's a real part of this list, and moving on into actually making the amends. And we should truly be thankful for that when we have opportunities to free ourselves, free somebody else, and move into a loving relationship that may have been broken at some point in time. Anyway, that was a little thought I had there, and now I'm going to pass it on to Doug for Doug time. Everybody welcome Doug.
Thank you, Paul.
Yay!
Thank you, Paul. And I want to give everybody an opportunity to say something or make comments on step 8. And Miracle, we want to start with you, where you can get over here in the picture. Yeah, get over here. See Miracle in the back here. Everybody say hi, Miracle.
Hi, Miracle.
Hi,
Miracle, did you have any thoughts, or did you?
I just saying hi. Thanks for everybody there. Last few weeks, this step's really hard for me right now. So, anyway, got a lot of learning to do on this step. It's really hitting home right now.
Well, good. All right, John, I'm going to go to you. Is that okay?
Yeah.
You're in the spotlight.
It sounds good, but it's something we all need to deal with. And even if we don't believe that we have any addictions, we are addicted to something. So it's something we all need to deal with, look at.
Thanks, John. Anything else?
Nope.
Zachary, I'm going to put you in the spotlight.
So I'd say hello to everybody, and
Hello,
glad
Zach.
to be here. And I don't really have any comments thus far. So just
Well, when you get all backed up, let me know.
are you feeling better, Zach, from last week?
yeah, I'm feeling better. I think that just tired and run down. I don't think that I'm sick or anything. I just think I'm Lisa and I both are kind of tired and run down. So, but
Wow.
it's just, I don't think that we're ill. I just think I don't know. I think it's just been that way for a week. So
Yeah.
I didn't sleep well this last week, and sometimes it's just like that. So trying to use some of the things I encourage other people to do. I'm trying to take my own medicine and do some of those coping skills and self-care on myself, and try to get caught up, but it seems like I can't. So maybe I just need to do more of it. So So if I look
Those
tired,
self-love ones.
so I didn't hear you, Debbie. What?
I said those self-love ones.
Yeah, just self-care, and
The self-love one.
Self-love, she's saying.
You'll have to elaborate.
So, loving yourself, self-love.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to be healthy.
Well, we're glad you're here, Zach, and we'll hear from you again. Vanessa, do you have, you want to say hi? And Vanessa, this is her first time on Zoom here with us, I think. So any comments and want to say anything?
Well, honestly, like I've been in here multitasking and I'm listening, and I had to look up exactly what step 8 was again. And it's funny because I just recently, well, Doug, have come by and got some recovery Bibles again. And I'm just now 3 months sober again. And, I've gone through a lot of stuff. Yeah, thank you. Gone through a lot of death in our family. I've lost 7 people, in the last 8 months. And whenever I saw what step 8 was, I was like, of course this is what I'm going through. Since I've been gone from SNL, a lot of stuff's happened, and I'm not going to go, I don't want to rehash everything, but I went through EMDR therapy, and, making that list of people who have harmed me was kind of a necessary thing as I was going through EMDR, because if you guys don't know what EMDR therapy is, it's a therapy for PTSD. And I thought I was just addressing things that were, within like the last 5 years or whatever. And when I was going through the therapy, it brought up stuff that was from my childhood. And I was like, ugh. So that list grew, and it had people on there, that I wouldn't have thought would be on there. And but it helped me realize where some of my thoughts and some of the behaviors were coming from. And I thought whenever I was coming to SNL that I was in a healthy place, and wasn't at all. And even leaving SNL, was a decision I had to make for me to get where I am today. Not that I don't love you guys. It has nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with me, and there are still times now where, I have to see that some of it's me, but gosh, step 8, when we talk about doing the steps over and over and over and over and over, that it's an onion, it's like, yeah, that's a gross reality. It's such a gross reality. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that you have to make a list of that you don't want to admit that you're going to have to put on there, and most definitely you're going to be one of them, which sucks. I think I will, the way I feel like my list is like, okay, this X and me, this X, oh, and me, and then this other person, oh, me again. Like, I think I probably did more damage to myself, than anything, because another thing is, a lot of other stuff has come to light, and it's like, oh, yeah. I'm not going to say I'm complete toxic one in the relationship of myself, or with other people, but definitely 50-50. But, that's I'm not saying I've been working the steps 100%, but looking up what step 8 is and making a list, like I haven't done it exactly how the step says to do it, but going through therapy and everything, like having to make a list of that, and finding forgiveness. I've been doing it a little bit different way, like finding forgiveness and letting go of bitterness and stuff. Like that's how I've been doing it, and just realizing like it doesn't matter why. Lisa taught a long time ago, like even if you have the answer as to why it happened, it doesn't matter. Just like as long as you know, like how can you use it to move forward, and what do you need to know to help others, and learn from it and go forward, and just releasing them and releasing yourself. So that's all. Sorry, I'm long-winded. That hasn't changed. I miss you guys.
Doug?
Sorry. Debbie, did you have anything you wanted to say? And you're the last one.
No, I think I'm fine. I think I said enough when we were talking about the steps and stuff, but I'm just glad everybody's here tonight.
All right. I guess, Paul, you passed it to me, and well, I'm sorry, I muted myself, so that's the reason why I was talking and nobody was responding. So
Oh.
anyway,
Miracle's listening.
Miracle heard me, and so all that's good. So Dub time, and I want to give you all an opportunity to input as we go through this. But step 8, as we've already shared, and I'm gonna hit some of the things that Debbie went over, and to maybe highlight on them, if that's okay with you, Debbie. And so
Absolutely.
but step 8 again, as Vanessa was speaking about, we made a list of all persons we have harmed and become willing to make amends. And this is just, I'm working on becoming willing to make amends to them all. This is just a preparatory step. It's processing what's going on. And so this particular topic that Debbie reflected on and also taught was about forgiven to forgive. And and I have entitled tonight as a how do I receive forgiveness? And in a sense, I know that kind of is almost it's a different topic, but in my mind, it was like, well, before I'm able to have forgiveness and then able to give forgiveness, I need to be able to receive forgiveness and be able to accept that forgiveness. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes. And Miracle, what'd you say?
So that's hard.
That's the hard part, she says. And I saw Zach shaking his head, and I'm not sure what John's doing there, but so what I'm gonna primarily talk about, I'm gonna touch some of the things that Debbie talked about. But here's a question: what does forgiveness do for the forgiven? What does forgiveness do for the forgiven? And how, in other words, how does forgiveness affect you or affect me? Because spiritually speaking, we've already been forgiven, and we have to be willing to accept that. Right, Miracle? Right, but that's the hard part, isn't it?
All right.
And maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. And again, I'll be talking about the 5 things how to accept forgiveness here in a moment.
It's easier for me to forgive others. than
Yeah.
to Forgive myself, or them forgive me. It's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
easier.
And remember the lesson I taught many years ago about a healthy individual is one that's able to give and receive love. Yeah, yeah. Sideline there, sorry. Aren't we all? She said she is still working on it, and so aren't we all? So forgiveness can lead to a feeling of understanding. Okay, forgiveness, recognizing that we have been forgiven, can lead to a feeling of understanding, empathy, or compassion for the one that has hurt you. Now that's sometimes kind of hard to do, right, Miracle? And so, but if we can come to that place that we recognize, like the scripture that Debbie read earlier, and I'm going to touch on it here in a moment, that when we recognize that we've been forgiven, then, and that we're able to really feel that forgiveness, then when we actually feel it, then we behave differently. Does that make any type of sense?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And so forgiveness doesn't mean, Debbie, this is for you, from our earlier topic when we weren't online. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing the harm done to you, okay? Or making up that person or that you have to make up with that person who caused the harm, okay? I think I'll do that again. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgiven does not mean forgetting or excusing the harm done to you or making up with the person who caused the harm.
Oprah Winfrey said that. Did you know that? I'm sorry to throw that in there, but Oprah Winfrey said that.
Oh, Oprah Winfrey. Oh,
She
okay.
said that she forgave her abuser, but couldn't forget.
Okay.
And that's how she protected herself, and that stuff.
Yeah. Well, and so you don't forget, but you can forgive, but if you're using the memory of the event to continue to torture yourself or cause you to be in a panic state, then you'll never reach the place of peace, right? Forgiveness brings, this is the next statement, forgiveness brings a kind of peace that helps you to go on with life. What do you think about that? Any thoughts?
So people that say that you didn't forget or you still carry the hurt.
You know, hey, you kids, I'm trying for the next 30 minutes to have a meeting.
Think about that, Doug. Because I've been told that
wait a second, say it again. I couldn't hear you, Debbie. I muted you, Debbie, because I couldn't hear. Go ahead.
So I've been told that, you know, that I've not truly forgiven them because I not completely forgot it, or
Okay.
I mean,
Did you hear what she said? Did you hear Miracle? Miracle said that somebody has told her that because she hasn't completely forgot it, that she hasn't completely forgiven them. And I say there is no way to completely forget. Okay. And the rest of the thing of it is you can't forget what has happened, but you can forgive. And the person that says that, well, if you still remember it, you haven't forgiven, may I be so kind to say they don't know what they're talking about.
that's why.
Can I help you?
Do I?
Can I help you?
Sure.
So, you know, pardon me, and if this offends anyone, but I'm just going to throw the bullshit card right on that. And you know, people like to say a lot of things, to other people, Miracle, and that's ridiculous. You know, the person who said that to you, they ain't done that either. You know, I don't care who they are. And you know, I agree with Doug. It's impossible to forget some of that stuff. And this stuff is layer by layer. You know, you know, in my own life, I thought I'd forgiven some person and realized that, you know, when God worked with me a little bit more, that I had a little bit more forgiving to do. You know, it wasn't that I didn't, you know, mean to forgive all of it. It's just I thought I had, you know, and so it's, you know, it's not, you know, you do what you can with the information you have at the time, and that works here too. And so, you know, we are our own worst enemy, and you and I have talked quite a bit, you know, and you and I have that in common. You know, we can be our own worst enemy, you know, even more so than some other folks. You know, we got that pretty bad, you know. And so when you come across somebody, and usually it's somebody we respect or somebody that um we're asking some advice from, and they tell us something like that, you know, and a lot of times it's a religious person. You know, you have to, you know, God says test the spirit. You know, just because somebody that is somebody that you respect that's godly tells you something, that doesn't mean they know what they're talking about, and that's okay. You know, it's okay to take those things to God and ask Him, you know, is that really true? Because God doesn't condemn us, you know, and that's very condemning, in my opinion. You know, if someone looks at you and says, well, if you ain't been able to forget it, for someone to look at me and say, well, if you can't forget your mental, physical, and sexual abuse, well, then you haven't done any work on forgiving that person. You know, who the heck are you to tell me that? You know, that's pretty out of line. You know,
Yeah,
and
I
I would
agree.
agree. I would agree that that is the same with you, Miracle. What, you know, whatever it is, and so um, don't let people do that to you. You know, you have done a lot of work. I've known you for a long time. You've done a hell of a lot of work, and don't let anybody sell you short. And you've done a lot of work forgiving these people. You know, but the truth is that some of these people did a lot to you. I mean, we sometimes we go to church and we get saved, and it's like we don't get to hurt over the things that happen to us, or it's like they don't matter anymore, and that's not reality. Those things still happen. You know, God isn't telling us that. God wants to help us heal, but you know, what is that you say all the time, Doug? If you're unwilling to, you know, you can't heal anything that you say isn't there. You
You
say
can't
it
heal
better than
something
me,
that you say is not there. Jeremiah
right?
six
And
fourteen.
so if we deny that thing is there, you know, God can't do much with it. You know, and I'm going to say something else. I'm going to shut up. You know, sometimes forgiveness is a God in me job. You know,
Say that
because
again.
sometimes forgiveness is a God in me job.
Okay.
Because if I could do it on my own, I've tried really, really hard to forgive some people that have done some things to me, and if I could do it without His help, I would have done it, because I've tried really, really hard. But sometimes forgiveness is something He has to do through you. And that doesn't mean that you're friends, and that doesn't mean that you ever see them again. That doesn't mean that you ever let them get anywhere near you to hurt you again. That doesn't mean that you act like it never happened. You know, forgiveness is sometimes just God dealing with your heart so you can heal. God is not, you know, I heard somebody one time say, well, if you truly forgive them, that hurts you, then you'll go around them, you know, where they could hurt you again. And is what they were saying. And that's not God. God does not put us in danger. And so if God is asking me to forgive somebody who harmed me, okay, that's because that unforgiveness is harming me. It ain't got nothing to do with that other person. Now, there are some aspects you know, of situations where God wants to do healing between people, you know, but sometimes that forgiveness is just because you're carrying that, and it ain't about you having anything to do with that person who harmed you. You know, God doesn't send us in to be preyed upon. So
Can I,
and so
sorry,
that's what I got. I'll be quiet there.
Thank you,
can
Zach.
can I share a couple of examples as to what Zach was saying? If you don't mind, Doug, if we have time.
You got the spotlight.
Okay. Shane and I have been separated for 9 years. We've been divorced for 8. I thought, it took 4 years for me to forgive him. I thought 4 years after we were divorced that I had forgiven him. Yet I was mean and hateful and always talked crap about him even after 4 years. And there was still so much resentment and bitterness and yada yada. I hadn't forgiven him, you know, maybe some things, maybe the initial things, but throughout the last 9 years, there's been more stuff to forgive. And so the example with Shane is that there's a healing between people. Shane and I now have a relationship where very, very rarely do we fight anymore. And so we both have a forgiveness, and does that mean we still have to be around each other because we have 3 kids together? We can co-parent. I love Carrie, the woman that he's with, that he's been with her since we separated, since we got divorced. I love her. She is an amazing stepmom to my kids. We co-parent great. We communicate well. It wasn't always that, and but it was a process. It's been a 9-year process, and now another person I was in a relationship with who there is a domestic abuse case with him where I still have an active ex parte against him. I forgive him, and I no longer have the nightmares, and I no longer have the flashbacks, and I no longer I can talk about this right here, right now, and I'm not sobbing, now, do I still have triggers? Yeah, I do. Because of, the mental manipulation but I'm to the point now where I have some of those triggers of the mental manipulation, and I can stop myself in the track, and I can catch it, check it, change it, and be like, this isn't Josh. This isn't that situation. And I can talk about it. I move past it, but am I going to go around him? No, he has no idea where I live. He will not know where I live. You know what I mean? That is never going to be a situation I'm going to put myself in, put my kids in again. You get what I'm saying?
Sure.
But in that, I had to forgive him because he made me homicidal. You know what I'm saying? And that's a horrible thing to admit, because I'm not the kind of person who it likes being homicidal, and it was like a daily struggle not wanting to retaliate against him for what he did to me, and so that's where that forgiveness had to come from, because it's like every day I had to remind myself, you can't go to prison, you have 3 kids to raise. You can't go to prison because they need a mother, and you can't leave Shane and Carrie alone to raise them on their own because your daughters need you, and so that's where that forgiveness comes from. Have I forgot what he did to me? No, because, like, number one, the damage that's done to my body won't let me, you know have I forgot the damage that was caused during my 10-year marriage to Shane? No. So that's my 2 examples. You're not going to forget, but you can get to a place where you have peace and you can accept that, it was what it was, but it's not going to control my life anymore. And that's what it is. So
It's good. Thanks. Appreciate it.
I have a thought.
Yes, sir.
Just because you forgive somebody does not make them a better person.
That's right. Good.
And you can forgive even though they're still evil. And the best example of that is Christ when he was on the cross and people were yelling, crucify him and spitting on him and beating him. And he looked down and said, Father, forgive them because they don't know what they do. He was forgiving, but they were still evil people. They were still
Yes.
doing the torture and being so hateful and so mean. But for us, when we can look at somebody who is not a good person and we forgive them, it lets us put away our baggage that we're carrying.
There you go.
It takes it off our shoulders and places it at their feet, and we can walk away. And no, we don't need to forget. It'd be stupid if somebody steals from you. You say, I forgive you that. Come on in the house, and that would just be dumb because they're still a thief. Just because you forgave them doesn't mean they're a better person.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
All right. And thanks everyone for everyone's comments. And one of the things that Debbie said out of the book was that when we're making that list, and I think Vanessa shared something along that same line, when you're making that list, oftentimes you're making a list, but then mentally you're making another list, all of what I've done and harmed others, but then we make this other list of everything and everyone that's harmed me, and so you're actually being triggered, and it's a natural state of being defensive. It's a defensive response. And so you have this dual stuff going on, but it's just part of processing, becoming really aware and trying to deal with reality of what is really going on in your life, all the toxic chaos that's happening. And if you've abandoned your life, or if you have disassociated, or if you have used chemicals or substances or behaviors or something to escape or cope or disconnect with your life and reality, which there are times that can even be that can be life-saving and healthy. But when you have a chance to get out of the situation, then you have to come to a place where you can slow down and begin to try to put yourself back together and heal. Because if you don't heal, then you're going to stay in a lifelong life of trauma, and that trauma will just continue to ripple out and affect your life and everything else. I'm sure that everyone agrees with that. So what we need to do is we need to write this down. We need to recognize our mental list. We need to process all of this, and so that we can come to a place that we're able to let go of that resentment. That resentment is a self-defense mechanism, which it's healthy, except we need to really, now this is Doug's 2 cents worth. That's really where we need to come in and be able to let go of our resentment, our anger, but have healthy boundaries. And that's kind of what Zach was talking about earlier. And so that, and when we do forgive and we establish healthy boundaries, we will never forget, but actually we can remember it less. It will start to subside, and it's not as big as a factor, and it begins to settle, and where you start to have more and more peace, and you're able to process that. And it is a process. Right, Miracle? Do what?
Very long.
Long process. So the scriptures that that was read earlier by Debbie, and about the kingdom of God is compared to a king that called one of his servants in. He was settling his accounts, and he owed him $1 million in present day money, and the man asked for mercy, forgiveness. The Bible says there in the scripture she read was he had pity on him, but that's mercy. Okay, it was compassion, and so he went out, but he was forgiven. He was forgiven the debt. My point that I want to make right here is he was forgiven the debt, but his life didn't change. He didn't connect with it. He didn't live differently. Okay, he was just he went back into his old pattern, and he just went to somebody that owed him money, and he didn't give any mercy or grace on others. And the statement that I want to make here is we always give what we want to get. Okay, if you give judgment, you're going to get judgment. If you give grace, you're going to get grace. And that grace that we're given to others, really, it does something to us, because our anger and our hatred for what they did to us, generally speaking, doesn't do anything to them. All that does is it's a defense mechanism, in my opinion, a defense mechanism to keep you away from them. Well, you can stay away from them without the mental and emotional poison that you're inflicting on yourself. What do you think about that statement, Miracle? And so
That's true.
it's true. Okay.
Just don't answer the phone.
Oh,
I guess.
well,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
what,
But
you
don't
don't.
answer the phone, or don't stay on there when they start the negative stuff. Just say
That-
goodbye, have a good day.
Those
Don't
are
message it.
some healthy boundaries. Okay. And if and those are healthy boundaries that you have to establish. See, you have to forgive, which is you. You have to change, which is you. And when you change, that affects everything else. And I know that's hard. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. I'm sorry. It's hard. Okay. But it's healthy. And if we don't change, right? Einstein said you keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results is insanity. So if we keep doing the same thing over and over, it's they're not going to change, because they're getting what they want. Okay, is to control and manipulate you. Right?
Sometimes if I say something's going to mess you up, Doug.
No, I'm messed up already. I've been messed up for a long time.
So I'm tired and I'm out of words for the day, and so bear with me. And I'm, like I said, I am who I am, so bear with me. But sometimes whenever you have change and you've worked on yourself, and your family or your friends or whoever it is wants to keep reminding you of who you used to be, you have to just create some distance. And that's hard, because we don't want to be alone. But we don't have to be alone. We can create family with who we have.
Yes, that's good.
We can create family with what's around us. And it doesn't take a lot to do that. But there's people that for whatever reason, they to make themselves feel good, they have to constantly treat me like I never made any changes at all in my life, which is ridiculous, because anybody that knows me knows that I'm nothing like what I used to be. But they still want to treat me like that. And so at one point in time, I had to create some distance, and then when they kept invading my personal space, I mean, I had to kind of say, you need to leave me alone, kind of kiss my ass, leave me alone kind of thing, because I'm not the same person and you're not going to keep invading my life and tearing me down. You know, and I know lonely is really bad, you know, but sometimes family isn't what they're supposed to be. You know, they're just not, you know, and it hurts really, really bad. But I had to tell myself one time, I can hurt over what I don't have, or I can spend that energy into making what I want. You
That's
know,
good.
and we had an interesting thing here this 4th of July, you know, and you know, we we went out and made some hamburgers and hot dogs. We didn't spend a whole lot of money, and we invited our neighbors who didn't have any family and didn't have anyone, and they all came out and joined us, you know, and we had the best time, you know, and it blew my mind, you know, because the truth is none of us want to be alone, and we're not the only ones that don't have somebody. And so you would be surprised how easy it is, you know. And I'm not saying just don't find anybody, be healthy, okay, but you'd be surprised how easy it is to accept what's around you, and you're not alone. It's kind of interesting how God put right beside you what you need. It's not always what you want, but it's what you need, you know. And they usually need you, because the truth is, you know, we've been picking on Miracle Night. Truth is, Miracle, you know, it ain't like you're the needy one. You got some stuff to offer. It ain't like people in your life, it's a one-way road, and you do all the taking. You give, you know. It's a two-way street, you know. You're my friend. It's not just me giving to you. I get stuff from you, you know. You got some wisdom in there, you know. You're a good person. You have a lot to offer, you know. So, you know, you don't need them people tearing you down. You may want them, you may feel like you need them, but you really don't, and that's hard. But you can have family. It may not be blood, but you can have it. So
Are you done, Zach?
Uh,
That was a wave off, I guess. And so we're getting close to running out of time here. And so I haven't got to my 5 steps yet, Paul.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
so and
Midnight.
that is you know,
I'm shocked.
What he said.
he said he's shocked. He said if you give judgment, you're going to get judgment, and that's not being in the fact that that we are that, you know, not, I'm not saying that somebody hasn't done you wrong, but the fact of it is, we have to take care of ourselves is the point of all of this, okay? And the really the biggest point that I wanted to address, the biggest problem is that we don't feel that we're really forgiven, and if we don't, and even though we're able to forgive other people, it's still oftentimes on the surface. Would you agree with that?
Right.
And so just because we forgive them, we still carry a lot of that baggage. That was a good word. Thank you. Appreciate that. I needed that.
That's what Paul said,
Yeah.
baggage or
We
whatever.
carry that around with us, and actually it's kind of the way it reminds me of the way that I used to do it in my earlier Christian days. Was I knew I was supposed to forgive, so I said I forgive, but I lived like I didn't. You whispered that.
Yeah.
But I was trying the best I knew how, right? I was trying the best I knew how. I was doing what I was told. And what I want to get across tonight here is that we have been forgiven. We can be free. We can come into a place of a little more peace. And it's not, I'm not talking about the absolute peace overnight in these areas, but a little bit is better than nothing, and that will continue to grow inch by inch. Inch by inch, it's a cinch, you know, and so mile by mile, it's not so hard. Is that what they say? So I'm going to skip and just go on to.
A lot of people are like me, yeah, we forgive them, but don't forget it, but we sure make it convenient. Well, I acted out because this is what they did. You know, I mean, that's when it turns bad, is when you keep not forgetting it and then using it, make an excuse to act like you
Well, when we actually are able to forgive, and this is a spiritual operation, it's not a mental assent, but it's really coming to that place that we have this this emotional shift that we're able to let it go. Hey, they are as defective as I am, or they may even be worse, but they are the way they are, and I want to be different, and so I choose to let that go. So I'm not connected to that insane train anymore. Okay, does that make sense? And if they want to be insane, they can be that way, but I don't have to connect with it. And so I can begin to start to heal and come to a place of peace. How do you accept forgiveness? All right. How are we able to get over the hurts that somebody's done to us? Maybe they betrayed us. Maybe they know our weaknesses and they take advantage of that because we feel that we want them. We've wanted them so much. We have this fantasy that they're supposed to be a certain way, and yet they never have been and may never be, right? Which is a hard thing to say, but you know, but we all have some of that in our life, you know. uh, you know, my mother wasn't a mother to me, even though she gave birth to me, but she did the best she could. Man, she was only 16. She was only 16 when she had me. So what did she know? You know, and but it took me a long time to figure that part out, even though, because I was set on the idea that she was supposed to be what I thought she was supposed to be, but yet she never was. And she wanted to be, but how can you be something after time has already elapsed, you know? And we don't come loaded with all the right information. The trouble is, it seems to be easier to be loaded with the wrong information. And so I am a flawed human being. The fact is, I'm not perfect, in case you didn't know that. I'm not perfect, anybody. I'm not perfect. And neither are you. Okay. And because we're all flawed human beings. And so when other people have, when I have hurt other people, then the fact of it is really required of me to forgive. And that's one of the things we have to recognize, that if I've hurt somebody, if they've hurt me, I have to say, I have to stop that hurt. And oftentimes we use anger to do that. But the fact of it is, then we stay in a constant state of war. And so what we have to do is say, that's the way they are. Okay. If it's a mean dog inside of a fence and they bit you, remember that. Don't go in there. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. And so what we need to do, step one, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into this. I'm going to abbreviate it because we're past time here. So step number one is, and this is how to accept forgiveness. Okay. We need to accept forgiveness from God because it's hard to give real forgiveness if you don't recognize that you are forgiven.
Hey, Doug.
Yes, sir.
That I was gonna, I wanted to make a comment, kind of what you were just saying. If we don't know how to forgive, it's impossible for us to believe that somebody else would forgive us and to believe that God would forgive us.
That's good.
That's just the thought.
Good. Well, I'm sure glad you're here, Paul.
Yeah.
Me too.
And so step one is we have to acknowledge that you did something that requires forgiveness, even if, listen to this, even if you feel that what you were doing was right. Okay.
Let's say that again, sorry.
All right. Well, Paul, John, your foot is in the screen. I got distracted by your foot. And so acknowledge that you did something that requires forgiveness. Okay. Even if you feel that you were right. Right. Sometimes we do things and we do it with the best intention, but we think we're right, but it actually caused hurt. And now, you know, there's multiple areas of forgiveness that we're talking about. We most of the time tonight we've been talking about abuse, but we're talking about in right now. A lot of this is about in our relationship dynamics with people, because if we have unforgiveness in relationships, then we'll sacrifice the relationship. And so if we will not let our pride get in the way and don't try to justify why I did what I did, because I didn't mean to hurt you, but you were hurt. And yes, you were hurt. Okay. You know, if I hurt you, but I didn't know I hurt you, and you say I hurt you, then I need to say, yes, I'm sorry for hurting you. Forgive me. That's it. Okay. Does that make sense? That's number one. Number two, apologize, which I may have already kind of touched on it. Apologize for whatever apologize for whatever's your responsibilities you had in creating the hurt. If I did something, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I remember a time, this just jumped in my mind. I was thinking about Lisa. I remember talking to her. I said, "Hey, Lisa, I'm sorry. I was wrong about this." And she looked at me and says, "You're telling me you were wrong?" I said, "Yeah, I can be wrong." And she said, "Okay," you know, and so we just have to say that I'm sorry for hurting you. Okay, yeah, you take ownership of it and you acknowledge it, you apologize, and you just simply say, "I'm sorry for hurting you." And you don't have to explain it, or, you know, well, it was really right, but you just took it wrong. Well, if you're hurt, you're hurt. Just go ahead and do that. If you want to continue the relationship. Okay, number three, again, we're talking about how to accept forgiveness. When after offer a handshake or hug or whatever is a physical contact that is appropriate, and that may not be appropriate for in some cases. Again, we're saying the relationship is important, and we want to deal with it. And when somebody has forgiven you, when they have said, I'm sorry, we got messed up here, acknowledge it. Okay.
They don't live here, or you can't.
Well,
For distance purpose or whatever, still say I love
the
you.
information even says if you can't make a physical contact, or if that doesn't feel appropriate, maybe you can give a smile. Okay. And so and that helps in you accepting forgiveness. Okay. Because the problem is we don't forgive ourselves, and if they can forgive us, well, I think that's next here. So I'll go with that. All right, number four, again, accepting forgiveness. Forgiving forgive yourself for whatever part you played in the matter. Sometimes this is the hard part, right? You've already said that multiple times, especially when the wrong was something that was major. Okay, I cussed them out, or I blew their car up, or I broke their window out with a baseball bat or a rock, or
I thought about it, but never got the,
but something major, or something even bigger than that, but accept that you're human. All right. Yeah, I'm human. That's what I did. That's not what I like. That's not what I want to be, but I am human, and acknowledge the fact that that's not what you want to do. Acknowledge that you need to recognize that that the person is offering forgiveness, and that you should forgive yourself, and that you shouldn't harbor or own guilt. That's what I did. We need to address it, deal with it, and take responsibility for it, and then live our life in the best way we can to model that we are forgiven, a better person because of it. Does that make sense? Let it go and learn from it and live a better life because you are forgiven. We're forgiven. We can say to ourselves, well, she forgave me, or he forgave me, or God has forgiven me. I forgive myself. I'm going to say that again. We can say to ourselves, well, he's forgiven me. She has forgiven me. God has forgiven me. I can forgive myself.
It's good
I tell you
stuff.
what, I don't know who that was, but I have had to practice that multiple times to help me get it, because I have condemned and damned myself and judged myself, and we need to practice accepting and giving forgiveness to ourselves. And we will not have peace that God wants us to have until we accept his forgiveness, and that we stop beating up and punishing ourselves. It's really in our best interest to accept that forgiveness, and so that we can live a better life. That's hard stuff, but it's good stuff. Number 5, this is the last one, then I'll shut up, and then we'll let everybody conclude and get any big ideas that we got out there. Make amends. We were talking about amends here. Make amends if you feel, this is an interesting statement. Make amends if you feel it is important to the relationship and your integrity.
but that ties into 9. Step 9, if it's not gonna hurt you or the
Right.
other person,
Right.
you have to consider that.
That's
If
true.
it's-
And actually, that making amends is step
Yeah.
9. But no, it's not a problem. You're welcome to speak. And making amends if you feel it's important to the relationship, and or your integrity. And integrity is a big one. The relationship is a big one. If you take something that wasn't yours, then you need to return it or replace it. If you have betrayed someone's trust, then you need to work hard to get it back. Okay, you need to do something to reinstate that. Making amends by your communicating with a sincere wish that you want to restore your relationship with others. That's how we get along with people. But back to what Zach was saying earlier, and I touched on, if those people only wanted to have their way, and they want to control and manipulate you, and continue to punish you, or to continue to abuse, then you don't, that's not a relationship. Okay, really, that's not a relationship. And so you have to evaluate that relationship and uh, figure out. I mean, if that's the kind of relationship you want, you're welcome to do that. But we really need to look at that. So we need to take full responsibility for our own actions when it comes right down to it. We have to take care of ourselves, and when we deal with us, our thoughts, our feelings, and our emotions, our behaviors, then we take responsibility for all those. Then we can get better. We can't blame others. Okay, they did this to me. We have to say, well, yes, they did do this to me, but I am able to go ahead and have a fulfilled, happy, joyful life, even though that happened. I don't have to live that out. Any comments from anybody?
Yeah, I was, I'll just say, in a toxic relationship for a long time. And this particular person was not going to be happy. Didn't matter what I did, she was not going to be happy. And I jumped through hoops and did everything I possibly could, but it was just a poke me and watch me jump kind of game continually, until one of my friends who's a counselor gave me a line, and it became my mantra. I no longer have a need to punish myself.
Good.
And with that line, and over, whenever something happened, it was not my responsibility. It was them, and they were toxic. And to think it through, that I don't have to punish myself and carry that garbage, probably saved my life.
Excellent. Anyone else? Miracle, anything?
I'm good.
Okay. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you and give you his peace. That's what I want for you. All I want to do is add value to your lives, to those others out there in internet land. We want to add some value to their life and help them, because we as a group here, and myself, we just want to help people. We're not here to drive people or make people or force people or beat up on people. We accept you the way that you are. We love you the way that you are. But our desire is to help you to be what it is that you really want to be. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
So, in conclusion, I want to say make healthy choices and have a good life. Paul, I'm going to send it back to you.
Okay. Well, we've been over a lot of stuff tonight, a lot about forgiveness. The make healthy choices, the last statement that we usually make as we check out of here, it kind of goes back to where I was talking about in the beginning, is you have the power over your life. You get to choose to get rid of toxic people. You get to get out of toxic situations. You get to choose to lay the garbage down that you're carrying by asking somebody to forgive you and leaving it at their feet. We've had some good stuff tonight, and I appreciate you, Doug.
Thank you, Paul. Good night, everybody.